Hi YouTube, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a Tom Ford product to show you, the new Winter Soleil Eye and Cheek palette, which is called 04 Violet Argente, Violet Argente, if we're going French, I guess. French speakers, feel free to correct my horrible pronunciation. So this is the fourth of the white packaged combination palettes in the square format, which I think are the most beautiful, luxurious packaging that Tom Ford has done. I have one of the previous palettes, the Winter Soleil, I think, and that's the generic term, isn't it? Solar Exposure is the one that I've got, which came out, or I got this certainly very early this year in, I think, January or so. I missed out on the first two, which sold out in a nanosecond last holiday, I think, warm and a cool, although I did get to swatch them. They were very, very similar, and similar to this one, which you'll see has had quite a bit of wear from me. I do like it a lot. Very, very pretty blush, typical nice Tom Ford highlighter, and a very kind of neutral but wearable taupey brown colour combination for the eyes with this glitter over here, which is actually a very effective glitter. So I have got a lot of use out of my first one of these, which is just as well, because they are horribly expensive. I think this latest one, £98, nearly £100 on one palette, which is, I fully admit, absolutely a ludicrous amount of money to spend on makeup. So I make that admission right from the get-go. So if you're going to spend that, you want to be sure that you're going to use it. You can argue that these are reasonably good value within Tom Ford terms, because of course you're getting a quad of eye colour, and those come in well over £60 now, as well as a powder blush and a highlight. So here's the colour selection in this palette, which is a bit more daring than the previous one that I bought, and I suppose won't be for everyone, but they're going to have to go down this route if they continue churning out these particular palettes. So looking at the eyes first of all, there's the very typical, and I should say here I haven't actually worn any of these shades on the eye. There's the very pale all over orbit and lightning colour. Not the most brilliant Tom Ford formulation there. It's, you know, it's good, but it's not brilliant. You can see a bit of powder there flaking off. Doesn't feel quite as creamy and luxurious as some of their shadows, and it's not a colour that you're going to get very excited about. You're bound to have this in your collection already, although I'm not saying that it shouldn't be there because of that, because what I like about quads as opposed to, you know, massive palettes with like 12, 15, 20 colours in, is that just much more easy to pull out and use and do one eye from what you've got in one palette, or if you travel. So let's move on to this red colour. Again, feeling a bit drier than some Tom Ford palettes, but very nicely pigmented there. And it is a warm to mid-toned russet red with, I don't know if you're picking up, definite gold shimmer in it. So it is a very nice, complex mid-red. Russet red, brick you might call. It looks as if it's going to blend out very nicely, judging from the swatch on my hand there. I mean, hand swatches are not always the perfect illustration of what something is going to look like on the eyes, but that's looking quite promising. I did wonder if there was anything similar in my Tom Ford palettes. I looked at Honeymoon, but of course the finish is very different in Honeymoon. It's a wet to dry. This is Burnished Amber, which is now no longer produced by Tom Ford. They discontinued. And you can see this top one here is somewhat similar. So if you had burnished amber, but it's definitely a more pinky red in the pan. The texture does feel better still on that burnished amber, I have to say. And there it is swatching. So swatching definitely a bit redder, but again with that same micro shimmer. They are similar. So if you had burnished amber, that's the most similar I can find in existing Tom Ford palettes. Then there is a very mid to warm brown down here. That feels much nicer. And oh, look at that gorgeous shimmer there, coming off much bronzer. Not brilliantly pigmented, actually, but a very, very pretty warm shade there, I would say. Again, definitely with a gold sheen to it. These are going to work very well together. Actually, I think probably going to be better on brunettes than blue-eyed blondes like me, but there we go. I literally couldn't find anything terribly like this, although I've got quite a few brown palettes from Tom Ford. I thought there was going to be something in Cocoa Mirage, but definitely not. So that again is quite an unusual shade for Tom Ford. And then of course the violet, which gives the name, and it's a glitter shade but not too gritty at all. And there you can see a gorgeously complex sheeny violet there if you're a violet lover. Very, very pretty. And I suspect that might be quite wearable on the eye and come off slightly greyer than the pure violet it's coming there. But there's a beautifully complex sheen. It's not actually showing brilliantly well in the viewfinder. And it's more a micro shimmer than a glitter on this one, I wouldn't say, although it feels a bit gritty and glittery on the fingers. It actually doesn't look as if there's any glitter fallout on that at all. So that's a very pretty shade. I don't know how wearable it is for most people. I pulled out, I've got 3 violet palettes. Violet Dusk. There wasn't, you know, again, an exact match at all there. I have to say I don't wear this palette very often. That's probably the nearest. And you can see much kind of greyer with less shimmer if you've got that one. And Lavender Lust, again, nothing directly comparable. These much cooler toned. I have Lilac Dream as well, which is much more kind of taupey lilac. Nothing really to match the vibrancy of this one. So it is an interesting eye palette combination there, I think, for Tom Ford lovers. And then in addition, you've got a very nice, smooth, but fairly standard peachy pink. Very pretty. That's going to be flattering on particularly fair skins. Not much shimmer on it, not the kind of gold micro shimmer of Pink Sand and its powder equivalents, Tom Ford. Quite peachy, not hugely densely pigmented. So again, going to look better on the fairer girls, I would have said, although flattering to cool or warm tones. Maybe not the best match for this eye combination, but we'll see. And then highlighter. It's nice. It's not the kind of jelly formula that I actually prefer in highlighters now. It's a definite powder, but very pretty. Maybe not, you know, sufficiently luxurious or different for this palette. So there we go with an initial look at the Tom Ford Violet Argente palette. I do think it's a little bit different in those 3 eye colours than anything I've got certainly in my Tom Ford collection. It won't be for everybody. It's definitely not a neutral palette. So depending whether you think when you're spending that amount of money, you want something really different or something that you're going to wear every day, that might push you towards one of the other Tom Ford palettes rather than this one. But I'd be interested to see how this works out on the eyes. I do think that purple lilac is very, very pretty, although it's not really a brilliant colour for me. But I do have a couple of parties to go to this later in the week and weekend, so maybe I'm going to have to work the purple. We'll see. So I'll doubtless let you know how this works out on the eyes when I've had a chance to play with it a bit more in one of my favourites or not favourites. But until then, bye for now.